So welcome back to the podcast, and today we're looking at the 10 biggest questions people ask on LinkedIn about how to get started, what they need to do, myths, all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to answer the 10 questions that I get asked all the time. And if you've never been on this podcast before, do give it a follow, do subscribe, because I talk about how you can sell more through social media, particularly LinkedIn. So do subscribe, because there's a ton of value in this podcast. So the reason why I'm doing these 10 questions is primarily I get asked them all the time. So I thought, what the hell, should I put them out there? So here we go. So the first question I get asked is, Dean, where do I start? Where do I start on LinkedIn? Now, this is a bit of a kind of rant for me, because most people will immediately go to posting content, and it's a mistake. The most important thing you can do is sort out your profile and optimize your profile for exactly who you are selling to. If you don't get your profile right, people won't connect with you. If you don't get your profile right, people won't see the value in working with you. If you don't get your profile right, people won't click and sign up and download your lead magnets. Your profile is where it's at. Now, of course, content's important, but that's secondary to your profile. There's no point getting all this attention from content if you can't convert it. And this is a really big thing that people miss. There, which comes to question number 2, what should I post about? Now, it's true that if you post selfies and sob stories and tell people how miserable your life is, LinkedIn will show up for you and will make you feel on top of the world with thousands of likes and comments and reposts and all that stuff. But is that the best thing you should be doing on your profile? Is that the best content that you should be putting out on your feed? No, it's not. You should post about a handful of topics, like 2 or 3 topics that directly link to the value you can provide through your services. So don't think that you have to go all over the show. Stick on a couple of topics and really own those topics. Dig into them. Go deep into them. Look at the different perspectives, angles, the works. Yes, also people want to know about you, your backstory, and your experiences. And you don't want to make it all dry, but it's about you and your topics, and a small number of topics at that, and stick to that. It is better that you have a small crowd who resonate with your message and fit your ideal client than talking about any old thing to get attention. So focus on that simple stuff, the simple topics. Question 3, should I post personal content on LinkedIn? Right. Well, if I rewound to 2020, and we looked back at 2020, people were meeting people in person. Zoom calls were not a big deal. It was all face-to-face, very little Zoom calls. Business has changed. And likewise, because of Zoom, because of the pandemic, we've had people jumping onto Zoom calls in their bedrooms. We've seen the inside of their wardrobes. All of that stuff's happened. So business has got a bit more personal. It has got a bit more, the lines between what's personal and professional are more blurred. The key thing I would say to you to kind of weigh this up and how personal should you go is, how much would you talk about with your ideal client in those first few minutes of a conversation on Zoom? If you talk about stuff like the weather and what you did at the weekend and that kind of stuff, it's fair game. But if you use LinkedIn as your kind of personal vlog and you get very, very personal, that could harm you. It could damage your reputation, all sorts of stuff. So you have to decide where the balance is. But I can tell you from my own experience, posting a little bit of personal stuff, sprinkling a bit of it in there, can actually really help, because people buy from the people that they know, like, and trust. And knowing a bit of the backstory of the person can actually help build that trust. So a little bit of personal stuff is absolutely okay. If you go too far, it can be harmful, but you have to find where that line is and find that balance. Okay, number 4, how should I outreach to people? Well, this is a really interesting question. So the average user will not respond to outreach from complete strangers. It doesn't work. And despite what you see, the vast majority of messages that people send go unanswered. So what's certain is that just outreaching cold to people does not work. What has worked is when people are seen to be putting the effort in. By that, I mean well-researched outreach. It's not just, templates, copy and paste. It's actually well-researched. You've done your homework. It's obvious to the recipient of the outreach that you have taken time to understand their business and see how you can help. So relevance really becomes important. So research. The second thing we've noticed is that the more you interact with a profile, the more open they are to giving you a fair hearing. So in other words, if I send somebody a cold message, it has X response. But if I invest time to build some visibility through my content, build some trust through interaction, and then outreach with something relevant and researched, I get even better response. So well-researched, relevant outreach is good to do, and we encourage you to do it. But how you do it and when you do it, it works better if somebody's been connected with you for a little while and you've had some touch points with them to build that familiarity. They recognize your name. They're familiar with who you are. Hopefully that helps. Question 5, do I need Premium or Sales Navigator? Let me give you the most clear, direct answer ever. Yes. The days of LinkedIn free being effective are pretty much dead. And the reason why is it's hard to find the right people. It's hard to outreach. Sure, you can post content to your heart's content with a free account. But I'll be completely straight up with you. The vast majority of people do not make their money from content on LinkedIn. The majority of people making money on LinkedIn do not make it from the content. They make it from outreach. They make it from relationship building. So, and other opportunities. So yes, the answer is you need Premium or Sales Navigator because 1, you don't want the frustration of the slowing down of the amount of people you can connect with. You don't want the limitations where LinkedIn will stop you finding people because you've reached the limits. Number 1, Sales Navigator, you want the ability to actually search in more detail, more accurately, more focused. So absolutely, Sales Navigator is the best of the best. And you've got to think about this because people go, oh, it's expensive. So think about it like this. How much is your time worth? And if you value your time, you will buy Sales Navigator. If you don't, then you won't. Because Sales Navigator just helps you find people faster and helps you find people more accurately. So less rogue profiles sneaking in and connecting it by mistake. So Sales Navigator is the best. Premium's not bad. But yeah. 6, should I use hashtags on my posts? Right. So LinkedIn's been playing around with the platform and now hashtags are not as big a thing. So you do not need to stress about using hashtags anymore. It's all about the keyword relevance. LinkedIn's looking and trying to see, are you consistent in what you talk about? And LinkedIn will help match your content to people who are interested in those topics. So you do not need to put hashtags on your posts anymore. Just keep focused on the right topics, the right keywords, and just keep sharing on the things that you are in your topic list. How do I increase my social selling index? Oh boy. the social selling index. It is one of the biggest tricks LinkedIn has ever put out because everybody's obsessed with increasing it. But here's the thing. It means nothing. The social selling index, when you look at it, it will give you 4 scores and basically how you're doing on 4 metrics. There is no definition of those metrics. There is no explanation of exactly what they are. They're just the most woolliest things possible. And I've met people with the most horrific social selling index, and you'll think, oh, I bet they're terrible at social selling, yet they're making money. And I've also met people who have the highest score ever, and when you actually ask them how they're doing, they're making no money. It is no indicator of success. Now, sure, it's nice to move those needles up, but they're not scores. The 4 scores that make up your social selling index do not guarantee you any sales, do not guarantee you're going to make any more leads. It's kind of a totally abstract score that doesn't mean anything. And people will spend hours teaching you how to improve it. But I did a simple experiment. I got somebody to engage with totally the wrong people, ran at random, engage with people across the platform, and do posts that were at random that got engagement. And guess what? Their score went up. And likewise, I've also noticed if you connect with a lot of people who are highly active, your score goes down. So there's no predictor of success by growing or increasing your social selling index. It's helpful. It's a good guide, but the definitions are so broad, it's so tricky to improve. Number 8, should I put links in my posts? So it is true that if you put a link in your post on LinkedIn, so you link to the BBC or your website, there is a risk that that post will suffer from a reach point of view. That is true. There's also some data now to say that if you put the link in the comments, that also takes a hit too. So generally speaking, you should not be driving people off the platform for no good reason. You should be choosing to strategically drive people off the platform. But if you do that on a regular basis, your engagement will go down. And whether that's an algorithm thing or a user behavior thing is people generally will click off and go and they won't come back to the post. So if you get somebody really excited about what you're talking about and they really want to click that link, the likelihood is they will go click that link, take the action you want, but they won't come back and engage. They won't come back and comment. And so it is a risk to be sharing links on your posts. And I encourage people to be very careful about how often they do that. So you'll see on company pages quite a lot, people sharing links all the time. That's really harmful. But if you decide, you know what, I'm going to launch a lead magnet, I'm going to put it out once a week on a Wednesday, that's absolutely fine. But the rest of the week, do not direct people off the platform. Keep people engaging with you on the platform. So you will take a hit in terms of reach and visibility because of the link click, but it's not doing any long-term damage to your account. Number 9, do I need a company page? That depends. Company pages are great for businesses who want to build their company brand, but they're also a lot of work. So for most small businesses and solopreneurs, their company page is just a validation of who their company is and that it exists. And so you need to put a few things on it just to populate it. For some people who are like solopreneurs, they may not need a company page at all. So I would think about, what's your long-term plan? Are you planning to employ people? Do you want to build out your business's brand? Is that business brand a priority right now? But not everybody needs a company page. The vast majority of people do not need a company page. But you build out your company page if that's going to be your central brand. But if you're trying to sell or market, profiles are where it's at. So if you use your LinkedIn profile, your personal profile, you will get more leads, more engagement, more business opportunities from your profile than you will from your company page. But if you're a larger organization, the company page becomes important because that's the way to build out that brand and that brand identity. So 100%, if you're building that business brand, you want it. Be careful when you do it because it is work to maintain it. And it could be in the early days for some people a distraction and just sapping their time unnecessarily. For most people, most of their leads will come through their personal profile. And finally, how do I get more engagement and visibility? Well, this is a big question. I'm asked a lot about how you do this on LinkedIn. Number one, you've got to show up consistently. That means posting similar times, consistent days over and over and over again. Number two, you've got to post things that people want to comment on. A lot of posts I see in my feed are announcements. They're broadcasts. They're not discussions. There's not helpful information. It's often promo. So you've got to provide value. You've got to provide some light relief in there, some interesting stuff that will help people. But very often, and I say this to people in my workshops, it's very hard to get going. And so sometimes I talk about 3 different types of content: attract content, nurture content, and conversion content. And each of those types of content will achieve different aims. So your attract content will get you lots of attention, engagement, and visibility. Your nurture content provides lots of value and help for your ideal clients. And your convert content basically promotes you and shows people how great you are at what you do and drives people to take action and download stuff, sign up for stuff, and buy stuff. You want to balance the mix. If you want to get more engagement and visibility, you want to balance that mix so that at least in the early days, you're building your engagement. So it's a bit more engagement-worthy content before you add more conversion content in. Because the way the algorithm works is it shows content to people who are most likely to engage. And if you've not been consistent, or maybe you've not been posting so often, or maybe you've just been off a period of not posting at all, you got to rebuild that ground. You got to rebuild that momentum behind your account. And that might take some time. The other thing to bear in mind as well is if you've changed industry or if you've got a lot of dormant connections, you might have a lot of people in your network who no longer see the relevance of the content that you're talking about. So you could have a scenario where your content's appearing in people's feeds, and because it's no longer relevant to them because they were in different industries now, or you're in a different industry, or because you've grown your network and a lot of the people are inactive, you have a profile that is putting out content, but it's landing with people who are not the right people. So the way to change that is obviously you can clean up your connection list, but you can also outbound engage with people in your network who are relevant. Go out and engage with other people so that they see you, so that you're seen, and some of those people will reciprocate and help build that momentum. So they're the top 10 top 10 questions that I get. If you've got more questions you want me to answer, please do message them to me on LinkedIn. And if you want to ask more questions or something more in depth about any of those 10 questions, drop me a line and I'll do some more on these in an upcoming podcast.